talk a lot about Jamaica cricket administration not reaching down to rural areas to find talent. Do you think that this still happens in Jamaica, Len?
No. And I can happily say no. I remember in the earlier years, people felt this way, and with justification. But during the time of Jackie Hendricks as chairman of the senior selection committee, I remember I was one of the senior selectors, and at that time you had just one selection panel that selected the youth team. And I realized that it was difficult because the selectors never had the information on the players in terms of seeing them. They would have heard about these players, and that's not good enough. You have to see the players. And I remember saying to Jackie Hendricks, Jackie, we should have Jackie Hendricks, no. It was Jerry Alexander who was the chairman. Yeah, Jackie, J.K. Holt. I was secretary to the selection committee at the beginning of 1983. And I realized how difficult it was for them to identify the players. So it was Jerry's last year because he was doing a lot of traveling in the Caribbean. Right? He was, what was he? He's a doctor. He was whatever surgeon he was. Anyhow, he never had the time to devote to cricket in Jamaica because he was traveling the Caribbean. Jackie took over in the latter part of 1983. And I suggested to Jackie, I think we should have a youth selection committee. He said yes. And he recommended people who should be on the selection committee. I was one, with Gladstone Robinson as the chairman. But I would also still be a senior selector. So I was a senior selector and a member of the junior selection committee. But after a couple of months, Gladstone, because of pressure at work, he was a financial controller at SO Standard Oil and wasn't able to go around. And he recommended to the board that I take over. So this lasted for about 13 years. And I tell you, John, that I can't think of a parish I never went to. And it is said that this was one of my strengths. I was out there looking at the players. I'll see them. And then I had a network of people in certain parishes and coaches that I could rely on. About 8 of them, right? From Titchfield, come right back to Cornwall, right? In Montego Bay. So I had the network. These people would tell me about a player, and I would journey to see these players. I tell you this, as a senior selector, Reggie Scarlett, he saw this player in England, and he was now in Jamaica playing for a team led, the president was Osman Erskine. I'm sure you would know him. He played a lot of cricket up here in the States. And he had a restaurant, the Village Restaurant in Brooklyn. And he had a team. A lot of players were working at his company. He apparently employed maybe about 20 cricketers. And the team that he had were all employees. The club that he had, all employees. And this guy's name is Joseph Grant, that was recommended to us by Reggie Scarlett. We sat down and we selected the number of players for the trial. Yeah. It was 24 players. And the policy is that once the team is selected, a letter is prepared for the player and his employer. At the senior, right? At the youth level, it's a different thing. You have to have a letter for the school, his parents.
Right.
So, and this player was in Montego Bay, Joseph Grant. And he's working at the same hotel that I mentioned, the Providence team, at the village. La Mirage was the name of the hotel. So when I said to Chester, Watson was the chairman, I said, Chester, I will take the letter. I said, you will drive to Montego Bay? I said, yes, I don't know him. I've never seen him. And it's incumbent on us. We should know more about a player. You can't just hear about a player. It's not that is a player playing first class cricket. You watch him on TV or like that.
Yeah.
We're just going to take the word of Reggie Scarlett. We value his knowledge and the game. He's a former Jamaican West Indies player, and he spent a lot of time in England and came back to Jamaica and was a member of the board. I recommend that. But I would like to see the player. And I drove down, and when he was handling the gate, at the pole there. So when I drove up, pole's still down. I got out of the car and he came around and said, "Can I help you, sir?" So I said, "Yes, this is Mr. Erskine here." He said, "He drove out not so long ago." I asked him, "When will he be back?" He said, "Late tonight." So I said, "Okay. Do you know of a youngster named Joseph Grant? I heard that he's a good cricketer." He said, "Yes, sir. Yes, he's a good cricketer." So what does he do? What was his strength? He said he was a bowler. I said, "How quick was he?" He said, "Very fast, sir. He was very, very." So I then said, "Well, okay, I'm here to give Mr. Erskine a letter advising him of Joseph Grant being named to attend the trials." Then he said, "Oh, sir, you are Leonard Chambers. I saw you are a selector and I saw you on the television. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm talking about myself so much." I said, "No, I'm glad that you told me about yourself. I want to know about you. And let me tell you, I was so pleased the way, the enthusiasm that he displayed about himself and how he's not going to let us down. He's going to put in the necessary work to do well." And believe you me, I've never felt this way about a player in all the years that I was a selector. I just wanted him to succeed. You want everybody to succeed, but I wanted him to succeed that he got into the team. And he was in the Marlon Tucker team.
Yeah.
He was in the 89 team. With Walsh and Holden and Patterson and Duchan. He was in that team. He's in England now because I think he went back to England and he played county cricket, if I'm not mistaken.
You served Len as cricketer, selector, administrator. Of the three, which would you regard as most difficult and most satisfying?
It's most difficult at the Jamaica under-19. At the time, we had just one age group competition, the under-19. Now we have under-15, under-17.
Right.
It was changed maybe in 2000 and something, right? Because I left Jamaica and came to the USA in 96. But the youth, it was pleasing in a sense, most satisfying. But there are times when players are left out, and I'll give you an example. Right? Starting with naming the group to come to camp. It's a lot of schools, and you have to be careful in not ignoring a player. It might be a good player, and you did not see him, but you have to be very, very careful. And this is why I had the network. And there are instances when players are selected and non-selection was made of them. For example, in 84, we're going to Barbados, and I went over to your old school, Elliston Road, ground where Casey was playing. They were playing stats at the time. Yeah. And this guy was going to Dunoon. I saw him in khaki. And I said, Mr. Chambers, I'm expected to be at camp, sir. I said, yes. I said, yes, sir. I'm a good player and I'm expecting. I said, well, when the selectors meet, a squad will be selected. And if you are a group, not a squad, a group of 26 players will be selected, you will be notified, and also your parents. The letter to the parents would be advising them that you are selected and you will be away from home for 3 weeks at camp, to park camp. That's where the camp was held. And your school will also be advised. Said, okay, so when we met and selected the team, I brought up the name. Nobody saw this guy, but I would have seen his team play there a couple of times, and nothing impacted me in terms of a player, performing well, that it could be considered to come to the camp. So when guys assembled at camp, the following day, they were now in the nets in the middle. So I was out there by the bowlers and watching, if they are contravening the line and things like that. I want to make sure that and I was the head coach. And Kanai was a square leg. And then Darby was the head groundsman at camp. And I saw him, he walked fast and came onto the field and said, Vijay, you have a problem. There's a youngster here. He said that you told him that his name would be seen in the Glean or what. So you have to come and talk to him. So when I got out, I saw him, I recognized him. I said, hello, youngster. I said, hello, Mr. Chambers. I'm so disappointed, sir. I should be here. Why am I not here, sir? I said, because you were not selected. So I said, but I should have been selected, sir. Because half of those guys, I know them, sir. They can't bat as good as me. And let me tell you, the youngster, I like how he talk about himself. And he gave me good reasons to believe that he should be given an opportunity. Let's see if I can get him into the nets. And I told him, all right, I will let the coach know that I would like to see you because, I'm the chairman of the selection committee, and Kanai, the professional, would understand. And when he batted, it was very impressive. Very impressive. Kanai nodding his head, the great one Kanai, nodding his head when he plays his shots. So he went back to the players' enclosure, and I said, I'm very impressed with your batting and also the coach. And you should be here. But I will have to get authorization because 28 players were agreed on by the Jamaica Cricket Board. And although you're at camp, each player we have to pay a fee. Maybe not the total, but each player, the board will have to, pay for your stay there for the 3 weeks. So I'm going to my car now. But before I do so, I have to wait. The secretary was Rex Fennell, later became president. I have to wait until he comes up to the ground. When he got to the ground, I went to him and let him know. I said, Rex, I have this youngster. He should be in this group, but he was not selected. So I said, you can't add anyone. So I said, well, I'm not going to leave out anyone to have him here, but he will have to be here. He said, oh, we have to pay. And I said, I will pay for him. I told him, I'll pay. He said, but you have to make arrangement. They were all staying at 3JR. So the bedding and things like that, you have to make arrangement. And he can't just come like that. So I said, I'll talk to Bennett, call him Blacko. And Blacko said, yes, man, the youngster look good. BJ, the youngster look good, man. Yes, I will make arrangement because he was in charge of the guys while they were 3GR. So, okay. And then went to my car, took out a letter a letter that is written. All I have to do is write the name of the person that it is going to, his mother, in this case, his mother, because school was not on holidays, right? The school would know later, right? Would be told by the board. And I said, okay, I'm going there now to give you a letter to give your mother. So for what, sir? I say, she'll have to be told that you'll be in camp for 3 weeks and you'll be selected, because there's in the letter, it's written what you have to take, your toothbrush, your toothpaste, your pajamas, your shorts, and what have you. I said, sir, I have everything. You have everything. I told my mother that I will not be back until 3 weeks' time. I was so confident. He was Vernon Smith. He was so confident, right? I just smiled. The guy didn't need a letter. He didn't have to go back home. And believe you me, the first trial match, he scored 160 runs. 160. No, Darby, the groundsman, who hastily reached out to me while I was on the field about this youngster, is disappointed and so on. He then said to me, I had to give him a try because both of us were living in the same community in Independence City. He was living in that section I was living. And when I was going home, he said, Richie, there's no way you can leave out this guy. I said, no, we can't leave him out. It must be going to Barbados. We take the box, that inning, just one inning he played. And anyhow, you know, when he reached Barbados, okay, he scored second most runs for the Jamaica team. And Wayne Sutherland, you know, Happy Sutherland, John, son, Wayne. Wayne scored the most runs, a few runs. They all scored over 400 runs. But both of them were top run getters in the competition for all teams. Wayne Sutherland would have made it, but because of his age, the following year, he was not eligible.
Was that the youngster Vernon Smith, Len?
Yeah, he scored.
I have been waiting for the name, like, you know, what was.
But he got into the West Indies U team.
Yeah.
We selected a West Indies U team.
Yeah, yeah.
And he came back to Jamaica and he played in limited over cricket.
Vernon Smith, huh?
So, you know, you have that type of situation and you have...
Hold on. You said Vernon Smith, right?
Vernon.
Yeah.
You know, my name is Trevor Smith. You know, my name is Trevor Smith, right?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good,
but
just keep on going.
no relation.
No, you look alike. Younger brother. It could be your younger brother. Yeah.
But Len, in your role as a selector, over the years, was there or were there times you had to stick out for the selection of a particular player to be in the squad?
A number of times. I give you an example. Okay. In 1990, we had selected a group of players. I think it was about 20. We never started the trials yet. And Michael Holden, he had procured a sponsorship for youth. No, he got a sponsorship from the head office of Separate in England. And Michael was he was one of the 4 selectors. You had Morris Foster, Chester Watson, Michael Holden, and myself. And Separate, they had fixed up the ground, looked beautiful and so on. So I suggested to the board, why not let Michael have a 1-week training program for the squad before they start their trials, and at Separate, right? And this was agreed on. So while Mikey was conducting his training session with the guys at Separate, I went to watch a match between Homewood and States in St. Elizabeth. In the group of 20 that we had there, one of the wicket keepers never looked so sound to us. So we say in the event that the specialist wicket keeper was good, and in Black died early, 3 years ago, about 42, died at age of 42. And so I went there not just to see if there's any player from states that we overlook, although the wicketkeeper was in that group, a batting wicketkeeper. So I saw in that game 1 over bowled by Franklin Rose. 1 over bowled by Franklin Rose before rain stopped the game. Game was washed out for the day. And that 1 over, I was impressed with the pace of Franklin Rose. Although I'd seen him the year before. I saw him the year before, and I saw him in 1 or 2 matches before. We named that group of 20. And when I look at his pace, I said, no, he has improved, man, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Then the wicket keeper, the way he was moving, a guy named Orville Pennant.
Mm-hmm.
So I then said, I was in the company of Dr. Bennett, Don Bennett. He was the manager of the States team. And Robert Lewis, he was the coach of Ormwood. And he was the guidance counselor. Anybody who went to Ormwood that during this period, they're well-rounded, because he was a guidance counselor and he was a coach. So I remember saying to both of them that Franklin Rose and Orville Pennant will be added to the group. And I remember my friend Don. Don now is a St. Elizabeth man. He's test manager and he did a lot. He did a lot for schoolboy cricket. I said, but let man. You have about 4 fast bowlers, you about 4 from states already in the group and 6. So why are you adding another player? Don realized that with this guy coming in, he look at certainty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. He said, but you're the chairman, but you alone can determine that. I said, I will discuss it with my selectors when I go, right? So when I got home, I called the 2 selectors. First, Morris Foster and Chester Watson, and let them know about the 2 players. They say, you go ahead, you know them, you know their strengths and so on. That will be fine. Who are you going to leave out? Because you have to leave out a bowler, a player now.
Mm-hmm.
And because we had a lot of fast bowlers, and I think we had too many. So I said, okay, Michael Holden, with all his experience, he would know which of the fast bowlers to be omitted from the group. So I called Michael and in the night, and I told him, about Franklin Rose, and he said, okay, Portius is the player to be left out. I said, Mikey, he's the fastest of the lot. He said, Uncle Vijay. But Mikey called me Uncle Vijay, right? He said, Uncle Vijay. Although we played on the same team together, he still called me Uncle Vijay, right? Very respectful, Mikey. And when I said he's the fastest, he said, Uncle Vijay, you ever hear the saying, he was fast? I don't even want to say fast and foolish.
Yes, yes.
He's not saying that the guy is foolish, but he said, remember, we always say that he's fast, but he's
Fast foolish.
fast. And he was left out. Franklin Rose made the team, and also Pennant. Franklin Rose made the team.
Mm.
He played an important role in winning the cup that year. Right? And this was 2 examples I've given you there with 2 players. They got into the team, and I convinced the selectors that, and there are times that I had to fight, for the inclusion of a player, and I used the position as chairman in a way that I would have seen all these players. You selectors have not seen the players, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
And I was telling about Joseph Grant that had a situation,
Mm-hmm.
senior selection. Joseph Grant, the same youngster that I took the letter to in Montego Bay, and hoping to do well and come on a consideration to be selected to the national team. He was on the field and a ball break away from him. The outfield wasn't all that perfect, right? And I remember, and I said I can say it now because I talk about it in the book, you know. And George Sterling said, "Look at the idiot." He was one of the selectors. And I said, "Why you say that he's an idiot?" He said, "Your guy." I said, "Oh, my guy? What do you mean by my guy?" The one that you went to Montego Bay and give letter to. But he heard about it, you know, Sterling. But no, he was a selector. And I said, if he's an idiot, we are more of an idiot than him because we selected him. And that same day, early in the year, same George Sterling were naming the group to come to camp. The trials, not camp, the trials, the senior. This is a senior group. And there's a player to be included and asked him, "What do you know about this player?" And he said that he heard that he's a good fielder. Right? And you can't be just a good fielder. You must be a good batsman who can field or a bowler. Right? And then I said to Mark Morris and Sterling, with due respect to both of you, you need to leave Kingston and go into rural Jamaica because the player was from rural Jamaica. And I know the player, he came to our youth trials, but there are several players who were better than him. And to be called to the senior trials ahead of players who were in the squad for the national youth team. What sort of explanation could be given for his inclusion? And I said, when I said with due respect, and because of that, at the end of each annual general meeting, the first board meeting would name our committees. And they dealt with the youth selection. I was returned. And then I was nominated for the senior selection. That agreed on. When Sterling and Mark Morris were named, they declined. No, we had to postpone that meeting. All right? And for the next, an emergency meeting. But on that day, for that meeting, States was playing against Umut, two of the strongest of the rural teams. I had to be there. I'm chairman of the selection committee. I will have to look at players to call to our camp. And I remember Chester Watson called me and said, "Len, no one would sit around this table." We had a big table to accommodate 19 people for a meeting. No one would sit there and don't put up their hand when you're nominated. If you're not there, Mark Morris and Sterling, they don't want you to be a part of the selection panel. So don't go. I said, I'm going. I am going. The rest of the board members, they should know my word, right? And by the time I got home, Chester was called me and said, "Len," I got home maybe after 12, going from Al Park, and he said, "They are no longer on the team." And there was this guy we call Garfield Sovers. He saw Alan Ray. Alan Ray wasn't a member of the board at the time. He said, "What up? Ken Chambers not be?" Alan Ray said to him, "It's politics, but he will be back next year." You meet up and even, although, you know, generally speaking, the selection panel, we work in harmony. We work as a cohesive unit. But there are times where I had to ask the question. Look, I'm looking at the two of you now. We have the same color, right? Three of us, right? I don't see Mr. Taylor. Where is he? I'm just seeing you, John. I'm just seeing you.
Oh, you're not seeing Trevor?
Trevor, yeah. Trevor?
He's there.
He's there?
Yeah, man. I see him.
You see him? I don't see him. Anyhow, just going back to my
But let me just jump a little bit ahead here, though, Len. Why was it important to address players and etiquette when they're going on tours?
wow. um, my first experience of all players sitting around a table, what they choose to use and what they don't choose to use. And I remember in '85 we're in Guyana, and a player, there's knife and fork, there's spoon to take out the rice and peas, and he was using the spoon to eat. Yeah, he wasn't using the fork. And I'm just signaling to him in a quiet way. He said that he didn't know how to use it. Then, after that, I realized that etiquette in different ways must be told to these players, especially the young ones. And just after that, the same player, we were playing a match at SosoBone Park. It was the under-19 versus the all-senior team. I think it was. Lawrence Rowe was there. And somebody pointed out to me how this youngster, he was taking the biscuits and putting in his flapper, the white hot, you know. And somebody told me that's what he was doing. And then when he finished into the dressing room, I called him one side and asked him, why did he do that? I said, manage, I'm taking it from my sister and brother. This is how rough things was with him and his family. I'm not going to call the school that he went to.
Right.
But it was when he said to me, I said, in future, if you have a problem, ask me. Just come to me and tell me. Not, don't do that, because the biscuits are there for the players. And when you take off, when you fill up your thing with the biscuits, and you're not supposed to do that. And I understand why you do it. You don't have it. Your family don't have it. And you're taking it home to your brother and your sister. And I told him, I even asked him, you're going home now. You have any money in your pocket? He's going to say, no, sir. He's going to walk to this. He's living in a year. I don't know he's going to walk, but he said he's going to walk. But we always, when you're playing matches like that, you give the guys them taxi fares and things like that. And I gave him my money out of my pocket and tell him that anytime you find there's need that you want something to help you out, I'm not promising you that I'm going to give you a bag full of money. The next extent to you, I will. I remember in Trinidad, we were playing at home against England. I was the manager, and we went to Trinidad for a week for training, because we played about 3 one-day games and 3 three-day games. The first game was in Trinidad, then we went to Barbados, then we went to Guyana, and then we went to St. Kitts for 1 game, and then in St. Vincent. But when first of all, when the team was selected, it was selected as the 1995 team. The team was selected by Alford, David Alford, and a guy from Grenada. He died a couple of years ago. And I remember I had to go to Guyana. First of all, I went to Guyana. I don't know why I had to go to Guyana. The board wanted me to do something here because I was a member of the board.
Just 1 second, Len.
Yeah.
Well, my question would have been, the difference between shocking and bowling, you know, because you use the term a little bit earlier, and like the chuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, chuck.
It-
I mean, John looked guilty when he said
we
chuck.
weren't talking about Chuck Connors. We weren't talking about Chuck Connors, the movie star,
Oh,
or Chuck Berry.
Yeah,
Chuck
right?
Berry.
Yeah, but we were saying just before, in your absence,
Yes.
you know, we're talking about disappointment and leaving out players and etiquette and so on. So I was explaining to John that, you know, a number of our players, they're not that privileged, and there's certain etiquette that they should be aware of.
Mhm.
You're not going to kill them, you're not going to blame them too much. But when I saw it happen, I then had someone, a professional person, to come in. So when we go to camp, we would have a professional teaching them, you know, at the table,
Yes, yes.
which one to use and so on, and make sure you don't use that's you see gravy and don't believe it's soup,
Mhm.
right? This happened, you know, John.
Oh, yes.
This happened.
Mhm.
Player believe in the gravy was soup.
Mm.
He thought it was soup and used the soup.
Yeah.
It happened not at the youth level,
Mm.
the senior level. But I was telling you about being in Trinidad for that 1 week.
Mhm.
And I remember the Trinidad, they did an exceptionally good for the team while we're there in terms of making sure that everything was adequate, everything was at our disposal. And they had this lady that she came in and she teaching the youngsters, I say, remember, if you go into elevator, you see someone, you say, good evening. When you're coming out, you say, good night. Night. You don't come in and say, good night. And we have seen so often, even in big events, people, they are addressing the gathering. They start to talk and they say, good night. That you're going away. You're leaving the stage. You say, and I remember the first vice president at the time of Trinidad. He played. He was at the UWI, and I played senior cricket against him. He was playing for UWI against St. Catherine, and he said, after the lady did her thing, you know, teaching, you know, etiquette and what have you, the different things that you're expected to do, and you know, you're representing the West Indies. It doesn't matter who you're representing, but this you should know. And I remember he said to me, that director said to of the Trinidad cricket board, and he said to me, Len, I didn't know all of this, you know, that you don't say good night. You know, you say good evening. When you leave, and you say good night. But I didn't know. And here's a guy from Trinidad, highly educated, and he did not know that. And it was so important that these guys, they know these things. And while you're absent, Trevor, I told John about two other incidents, you know.
Right.
But
Before we continue, I might have to take a quick stop here.
So you're talking about Steve Buckner,
Steve, yeah.
and he was one of those top umpires, but
Yeah, he certainly was. But what happened is that some of the older folks there, they were remembering a decision, a couple of decisions they made in Australia against India. But but they pointed out those two, you know, decisions that they were happy about. And the Indians, of course, they were upset. But in those years, we never had referral, right? And if Steve could only make two mistakes in his long and illustrious career, what about those umpires we have seen today that they make mistakes, so many mistakes they make, and the referral system prove that they were wrong.
Yes.
You know? And so this is why I went to my car and said, listen, man, you know why it's in this book? Because this was not a quick read. I went to, it's sometime about 2001.
Uh-huh.
I went to Lords. So I went to a match. I was in England. No test match was on, right? My wife, she was at college, and she was my girlfriend at the time. And I went up, and then we went, and I took a picture with Steve, 2001. It's in the book.
Okay.
I gave it to Steve. I said, Steve, show it to them. And the guys them said, Chambers, we know that he's good, he was great, We're just joking, man. Do you think it's a good thing from Steve? Book? Yeah, but as John asked, just before you left, Trevor, he was asking about, if I find difficulties at times in the non-selection of a player and, embarrassing situation. You're going to have that. It's going to happen. I remember in a match in Guyana, 1985, Darren Dixon was a captain. Yeah, Jimmy Adams, he was batting. And when he came in at the break, I said to him that he should wear boots with studs. But Jimmy was comfortable. He was comfortable without the boots with studs. And when Jimmy went back to back after the resumption, you know that Jimmy got run out. You know why?
Slip.
Yep.
Slip.
Right? Without the boots, because he was comfortable. And now he had the studs on, and he slipped. And then I look at Connor, and I did like this, And they say, why did I tell the young man to change his cars by a run out? So to blame, and say that it's because of the boots, It happened, but you share their regrets when they are not selected, as I said earlier on about the youth players. Some of them would love to make the team and say, I represented Jamaica, because it will be more difficult representing the senior team.
Yeah.
And when they're denied, not because of prejudice or anything like that, it's just that the selectors are faced with the task of selecting the best 11. And in my time, I've never seen a player who go out of his way to say, this guy is so-and-so, I'm not going to play. One instance I can remember about a player to be with Mark Nito. And it happened that was with Bull, 2 KC guys, right? And Nito was one of our top batsmen in the Jamaica senior team at the time, and he got it. And Matt Morris was playing doctor. He asked for Nito to come up. He was downstairs while we were selecting the team. He wanted to test the injury.
Yeah.
Is in the young man's hand. And it upset me. It upset me in a way that I asked Matt Morris if he's a doctor.
Yeah.
And I recall after that, we were the same selectors. I think must be 2 nights after that, we were at the Wyndham Hotel. The 3 of us, Matt Morris, we were discussing team selection, and the bakery man, Captain Boring, was the president of the JFF, right? And Mark Nito, father, Churchill, right? They were friends. And they saw us sitting there. And then I remember Captain Boring, I would have known him because I played for the Army for 2 years. I had a problem with my club, St. Catherine. I took a break and was playing for J. Dave. And um, the Captain Boyle said to me, "Hey, Vijay, what's up?" And Mark Nita said, "Don't talk to anyone." Mark Nita for the church in there. "Don't talk to anyone else. No, don't talk to anyone else, because some people believe they're a doctor." right away with Mark Morris. And it's true. He should not have done that, and to be testing, get the physio, to test him. He said that he was okay, and he was playing for Jamaica for a while. He was a mainstay in the team, and he should be treated in a way that it was, to me, very disappointing. And for him to be there squeezing the guy, and a couple of the players, they were in the vicinity, and they didn't like the reaction of the then chairman of the select committee.
Something I didn't know, Len, that I read in the book, couple of things actually. That the first one was that the inaugural year of Headley Cup cricket was played by boarding schools only.
Yes, Gilbert Parks, well known, well highly respected in schoolboy cricket. He died last year, or was the year before? And I asked him, because he was really, as a school teacher and the sports master, coach, he was very much involved. So I asked him, when it started, and he gave me the years. And also, I remember asking Jackie Hendricks about the sunlight competition. Parks told me that in the Headley Cup, it's boarding schools who first played the schools, because it was easier to assemble the players.
Yeah.
At school.
Yes.
And
I also never connected the dots that our first Prime Minister, Sir Alexander Bustamante, was a sports person.
yes,
I always knew that Michael Manley was, but not Sir Alexander.
yes, certainly. Michael was always there at matches, and he loves the game. But Sir Alexander Bustamante, in the estate competitions, you had the Royal Navy and the Cromwell. And at the end, the Royal Navy was junior to the Cromwell. Teams like, one team had two teams in the competition, Monmouth. They had so many cricketers there, and they entered the Royal Navy competition. So if you win the Royal Navy competition, you get promotion to the senior competition. So Monmouth B team won the junior competition, so they joined their A team from the. So at the end of the season, they would divide the teams in zones: East, Central, West, and Mid Island, whatever it was. And I mentioned it here earlier that I played coming back from England. When I played in that game, in St. Mary, I scored 82, and the other chamber scored 72. Well, Sir Alexander Bustamante, he was present after the game. We had a presentation match, and he came watch the game, and then he was at the head table while the prizes were handing out, man. And I remember this guy Grandison. He was a prolific run getter, scored centuries, and he got maybe about 6 or 7 bats for scoring centuries in the different competitions. The semi-final, which we never played because we're in England, he scored a century there, and other games, and he got about 6 or 7 bats. I remember Sir Alexander Bustamante say, because if you're going to open, I'm supposed to score. But the way he talked, it brought laughter. Because he had this fine voice. But he loved, and he really cracked some jokes there. And the Bustamante, because of the trade union, the Bustamante union, of which he was the founder.
Yeah.
And in the sugar estates, It was the
Mhm.
NW and the BITU, and
Right.
dominantly BITU.
Mm.
So you had a lot of people that the authorities make sure that these workers come there to cheer him on.
Okay.
But he was good. He was good talking about the game, you know, with the crack his jokes about the players and, you know, and in this day, what he would have done. Or he never played the game. You know?
Okay.
But
I want us to focus a little bit on our youth, Len, and I'm going to start at this point because I like that line, and I quote, his timing was unquestionably glimpses of a genius in the infancy of greatness.
Mm.
Your description of one Brian Charles Lara.
oh my gosh. John, 1980, the youth tournament was held in Barbados, and we were playing at the Empire Cricket Ground. Empire Cricket Ground, Everton Weeks, Seymour Nurse, Charlie Griffiths, that's their ground. Carlisle Best, these guys played at that ground. And we were playing Trinidad. And Brian Lara scored 194, I think it was, in the day, 194. And they were bowled out at the end of the day's play. Normally, we would go back to the hotel to have our meetings, you know, after a game. And I said to Ron, and I, the coach, I would like to have the meeting here before we go. Because it was fresh in my mind, the way he batted. His dominance, the way how he started his innings, the way he batted throughout, you know, selective, and at the same time was scoring at a rapid pace.
Mm.
So in addressing the meeting, I mentioned his technique, the quality of his batting, and I wish he was a Jamaican, but happy to know that he was a West Indian.
Mm.
And Robert Samuels said to me, asked the question, Manage, why did you say that? I said that because he's headed for greatness.
Mm.
Robert Samuels turned to me and said, Manage, I'm going to play an innings that you will long remember. You'll always remember that. And he did. He batted well.
Mm-hmm.
Robert, he scored 148, I think it was. But that innings of 190. Although I saw him from 86, that is Brad Lara. That's when he made his debut. He got 50 and 20 had not out. You could see, I remember Perry, Darren Dixon was the captain. Perry and Jimmy Adams, they were two main spinners. And I remember Perry saying, Coach, why manage this so nervous? He's always walking around boundary and that. Manage, don't be so nervous, man. I said, I want you guys to do well. This is why I'm nervous. He said, you're talking about like a Shorty. Shorty, that runs in the second innings, you know. You know who he was to? Brian Lara. That was 86. And then he came to Jamaica in 87. And I remember the performances from both Brian Lara and Dan Raj. They're two top players.
Mm-hmm.
They perform exceptionally. Whereas our two top players, Jimmy Adams and Perry, they were two top players. They underperformed. We expected more from Jimmy as a batsman or as a bowler. No performance from him in that game. Also Perry, because Perry was a good batsman, but up the order. But Brian Lara scored 150 against us. And you had Robert Samuels, who was the youngest member. He was 16 at the time, Robert Samuels. And he outbatted the senior players. But the Brian Lara, when I saw that 190 yard, and then the 150 yard, and I remember when we came back from Barbados, Myers, the sports writer, that's the father. He was a sports writer with the Daily News. I think his brother, his son succeeded him. And I remember he mentioned it in a report that the first time he heard about Brian Lars, when I mentioned to him the elegance of the man, the beauty, of his stroke play. You know, it was unimaginable.
Yeah.
But
Give us some insight, Len, on your conversation with 14-year-old Marlon Samuels at a Saturday morning practice.
okay, about Thursday before that Saturday, I went down to, again, Elliston Road. And it was a Topping Cup game, which is 35 overs. And KC was playing against Excelsior. And Chris Gale, younger brother, was bowling. Very good leg spinner. Andrew Gale is his name. And he played the year before on the national youth team. And he was still eligible for that year at the under 19 level. And when I got to the ground, I just saw 3 shots by Marlon Samuels. And he finished up with 17. It's 3, 4, 12. But the 17 would have come in maybe about 7 balls. And Roy McLean, who you know well, he was the coach. And I went to Roy and, you know, these guys are still in his charge. And I asked him if I could have a word with young Samuels. At the time, I never knew that he was related to Robert. Right? A test player, and at the time was an active Jamaica player. And he said, yes, man, have a chat with him. So I said, Marlon, I was impressed with your stroke play, but it's a pity that you didn't have more runs to score at. And I said, so, and I told him, you know, I was impressed because the leg spinner was bowling to him, and there he played 2 on drives in different, between long on and straightish mid wicket against a leg spinner where the ball was turning a lot. He was playing against the spin, but he was getting on top of the ball, and he kept the ball all along the parapet to the boundary. So I asked him, you know, what your scores have been like? He said, Mr. Chambers. So I said, I introduced myself. I said, Mr. Chambers. So I said, by the way, are you related to Robert? He said, I'm his brother, sir. So I said, all right, proceed. And the coach don't know what he's doing. I said, Roy McLean, so highly respected as a schoolboy coach, played Senior Cup cricket, and you're saying that he doesn't know what he was doing? He should be batting me up in the order, sir. So I said, on what premise? What have you done to convince him? He said, I played Junior Cup cricket and Minor Cup cricket for Melbourne on a bat number 3, scored 50 at 60. I said, all right, okay, that's good. Would you be, I'm going to invite you, what I'll let Mr. McLean know. I'm going to invite you. There's a group that is practicing at Savannah Park. There will be a child's group. Would you attend? Said, we'll have to ask his brother. I said, all right, I'll first ask Mr. McLean. And Roy said, yeah. And then I called Roy. I called his brother, Robert. Robert said to me, manage him to a little bit. That's what he said to me. That's how Robert talked, right? Because he was really small, you know. And I called Roddy Williams, who was like a godfather to so many young cricketers at Melbourne Club. He really looked after them, take care of them. I said, yes. He said, okay. So they sat there, Stratton Palmer, who you know well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I told, well, he arranged for an interview with him at Savannah Park. Brought on his camera. And while I was being interviewed, Jonah Bennett, who was the coach of the team, they were practicing towards South Camp Road. That's where they practice wicket, sir. And I saw Jonah and it's walking fast because he's short, you know. I thought I was looking at Charlie Chaplin walking, you know, towards the Sabina Park pavilion. So I was sitting there at the ground floor where the interview was being conducted. And he said to me, "Manage, the youngster that you invited to trials doesn't want to bat. So come and talk to him." So there was Stratton Palmer with his camera. Walk out, and I call Marlon, "Why you don't want to bat?" He said, "I want to bat, sir, but Robert don't want me to bat." I said, "All right." Went a little wear a helmet. Said, "Okay, believe you me." It's about 3 to 4 weeks after the interview was, I would say, redone, because we were about 10 minutes in the interview, and it was for a program the following week, which would last maybe, my interview would take up maybe about 20 minutes or so. So we had to restart the following week. But while he was batting, the guys marveled, the guys were looking on, marveled at the way he was batting. But at that young age, 14, you had people like Wavell Hines, you had Leon Garrett, you had guys ahead of him, but I just wanted them to be exposed at that level. No, the following year, he was selected to come to trials. And Gladstone Neal, you know Gladstone Neal? Gladstone Neal commented that the principal would like to have a word with me. And they weren't too happy with the schoolwork. And they suggested that he be omitted from the group because they want to work on his studies. And for him to come to camp, be in camp, and then go on tour, because we were going, I think we were going to Barbados. And so he was not selected. We had to leave. And then Mrs. Golden heard about the situation, and that should help him out, right? If Marlon attended her home, it's not for me to say, really, because apparently he did not, you know. And okay, later that year, after he was omitted from the list of players up to the trials, he represented the Jamaica youth team against Pakistan. Okay. Yes.
So he never did go stay with the lady.
Pardon me?
So he never did stay with the lady when he was because
no,
Mrs. Sterling.
For whatever reason, you know, it's such a long time ago. Anyhow, he represented the Jamaica youth team first against a touring Pakistan team with Afridi, and he got a good score. I think he was top scorer in the first inning, and then the second he got some runs, and then after that, it's history. You know, he was a charming player. You know, he was off at the time. He was off the Lawrence Road
mold.
Okay.
Purest of stroke players. He was among those.
With us is Leonard Chambers, former Jamaica cricketer, and I am holding in my hand, if hopefully you can see the book, my life through the years, my life in cricket. And Len, I want to talk a little bit now about the Ventura brothers. They are the sons of a good friend of mine. And I had the privilege of seeing Mario Bat in a Sunlight semi-final in which he scored over 200 runs.
Yep.
and innings I thought of class. But what kind of cricket was Valentino? I never saw Valentino.
Valentino both of them played football well.
Mm-hmm.
Mario, I remember George Thompson prevented him from coming to our cricket session because of football. Well,
Mm-hmm.
coach in charge. But with Mario and who we call and Tino,
Mm-hmm.
you asked a question about Tino, not Mario. You're asking me to talk about Tino.
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 Mm-hmm.
All right. Tino was a very good player. Both of them. Tino was very selective. He wasn't a dashing opening batsman. But he had strokes all around the wicket. But was very selective. And he was good enough, in my opinion, to make the national senior team. But the competition, the competitiveness of those who were challenging for a game and those who were settled in the minds of the selectors, they might have 2 or 3 openers. He wasn't able to make his way into the national senior team, but he was a very good player. He was the vice captain of the team, and now with Mario, Tino was a right-handed batsman, Mario was a left, and he was a dash player. He was a dash player at the youth level. But when he got to the national senior level, he was more patient, but he was a terrific player. I thought that he would have gone on and played for West Indies, but a lot of people did not know that he had a serious illness, and it denied his progress. He was denied the exposure to the bigger league because of the illness. And he told me this. And he told me after he finished playing, right? He said, "Manage, this is what I went through." His dad knew too. And his dad he played the game, and his dad helped them along. I remember going to Sabina Park one day. I had to go there. No cricket is playing, and there was Mario and Tino, the batting in the nets with his, and his father's there, bowling all day to them. But they were good players, very good.
Actually, I know the story of Mario because his dad told me about it.
Okay.
As I say, we are good friends.
Yes.
We go back to 1957.
And I was saddened by what he told me.
Yeah.
Because he was headed.
It was unfortunate because him and Shandapal, when they went to England, were the 2 batsmen who got centuries over there.
92.